and our opening words are by Elizabeth Strong. Enter into the communion of flowers. Enter with joyful hearts. Enter with reverent thoughts. It has taken long months beneath cold ground for these flowers to prepare their blooming. It has taken each of us long times of growth through sorrow and joy to prepare for our living now. The blooming season is short. The flowers stay only a brief time. We are travelers upon the earth, travelers through all too brief lifetimes. Therefore, let our moments be bountiful. Let us rejoice in our unique colors, aromas, and sounds. Let us celebrate together in love, that as we travel away, we take with us the memory of golden hours together among the flowers. There are a handful of things that are uniquely Unitarian Universalist. Our 7 principles, our chalice, which we light each Sunday. We celebrate water communion in the fall. This is a good time for me to remind you that as you go about your summer and find yourself in some amazing places that you will find yourself, even if that is your own backyard, be sure to collect a tiny bit of water from those places and save it for our fall ingathering ritual. And we celebrate a ritual that was developed in the 1920s called flower communion. It is this ritual that we celebrate today. The flower communion was initiated by Norbert Capek, who was also the founder of the Unitarian Church in Czechoslovakia. He saw the need to unite his diverse congregation who came to the Unitarian Church from varying Protestant, Catholic, and Jewish backgrounds. He wanted a ritual like the communion of bread and wine that would bring the community together and which would celebrate both the individual and the collective beauty of his worshiping community. For the elements of the communion, he turned to the native beauty of the countryside and found there symbols that would be genuine to them all: flowers. During the ritual, congregants added their individual flower to a communal bouquet, and at the end of the service, took a different flower home with them. The ritual signified both the individual gifts that we bring to the altar and the added gift of what we take away when we open ourselves up to communion with others. The first flower communion was held in Prague on June 4th, 1923. Today we have brought flowers of all different kinds, grown in all different places, representing our unique identities and paths traveled. As we bring our flowers forward, may we celebrate the inherent worth, dignity, and beauty of every human person, and may we add our small piece of unique and divine beauty to the collective vases of this community. Later in the service, we will each receive a flower in return. But first, let's see what collective beauty we can create when we all come together with our unique gifts and offer them to that which is greater than ourselves. If you don't have a flower in your hand, there are extra in the back hallway, and we have enough for everyone. As the music begins to play, I invite you to bring your flower forward and add it to our altar. Let's begin in the front on this side of the sanctuary and move all the way back, and then here and here and here, until all of our offerings are mingled, all of our gifts shared, and all of our individual beauty honored and made whole by our gathering together. Let us begin. Wow. My congregation knows that that is a prayer. Spirit of life, bless us in our coming together this morning. Help us to honor our own unique paths, which have brought us to this holy place. Help us to honor the lives and stories of each person we encounter today with all that they are holding. Help us to share this precious world with them and to care for it. We have not created this earth, but we are part of it, part of the living divinity, the holy universe. And we are called to care for the beauty of creation, the beauty of the earth and of each other. Called to protect it and bless it with our prayers, our work, our play, our singing and dancing. Called to protect each other with our commitment, our words, our bodies, our love. Called to bless each other with forgiveness, patience, kindness, and peace. May our coming together this morning recommit us to this holy work of living. Amen. Our reading this morning is a responsive reading. You can help me out. Join me. It's in the back of your hymnal, number 556, called These Roses. If this side of the congregation would like to be the bold type, and this side would respond in the italics. Number 556. These roses under my window make no reference to former roses or to better ones. They are for what they are. They exist with God today. There is no time to them. There is simply the rose. It is perfect and no one existence. Before a leaf bud has burst, its whole life acts. In the full-blown flower, there is no more. In the leafless root, there is no less. Its nature is satisfied, and it satisfies nature in all its life. But we postpone or remember. We do not live in the present, but with reverted eye lament the past, or, heedless of the riches that surround us, stand on tiptoe to foresee the future. We cannot be happy or strong until we too live in nature and in the present of all time. Ralph Waldo Emerson. So let's contemplate our community bouquet here for a time. It's incredible what we create together. Each flower is so unique and different and beautiful, and they come together into such a wonderful combination of color and shape and scent. There are the gorgeous, voluptuous peonies, the humble honeysuckle, the stately iris, and the homey pansies and daisies, the native species and the imported, the wild flowers that need only the sun and rain to thrive, and the cultivated flowers that need more time and attention. The perennials, who once planted, take root in this place and become part of the landscape for decades to come. The annuals that change each year and bring a flash of color to the town with their arrival. There are the flowers that we know are technically weeds, but which offer so much of their own charm that we hate to mow over them when we cut the grass, and so we make room. All of these make up our community bouquet. And all of these make up this town, this place, this community. I hate to be too obvious with my analogies, but why not? If we think of Provincetown as the empty vase, and all of us who live here and work here and vacation here as the flowers, we get the same beautiful, diverse bouquet. We have the attention getters and those that work behind the scenes to make the town run. We have a community of people who were born here, whose parents and grandparents were born here. We have seasonal workers from all over the world. And we have the Washashores, who on our life journeys came upon this little spit of land and called it home. We have the hardy year-rounders, and we have the other 48,000 people who make up our summer community. We have a lot of characters. One important part of our community bouquet that I do not want to forget, although they are not always so visible as some of the other parts, are those that spend their time here behind the kitchen door. Behind the Kitchen Door is the name of the Unitarian Universalist Common Read book this year, written by Saru Jayaraman. It's an expose of the working conditions and discriminatory labor practices in the food industry. It includes the stories of waiters, busboys, sous chefs, and prep cooks, all trying to earn a living in one of the hardest industries in our economy. Now, this may seem an odd pairing with flower communion, but if we are truly celebrating the full bouquet of Provincetown, these stories need to be part of our story. Here at the Meeting House, we have been reading this book, Behind the Kitchen Door, throughout the winter and spring. And if any of you want to read it and haven't yet, we have copies to share. It's an important book, sobering but also heartwarming, challenging, but with challenges that leave you not empty-handed, but with concrete and empowering actions to take at the end. The author, who launched a national restaurant workers organization after 9/11, tells the stories of 10 restaurant workers in cities across the United States as she explores the political, economic, and moral implications of eating out. What's at stake when we choose a restaurant is not only our own health or foodie experience, but also the health and well-being of the second largest private sector workforce, 10 million people, many immigrants, many people of color, who bring passion, spirit, and heart into the American dining experience. These stories need to be part of our story. Some of us will relate more to these stories than others. Some will identify with the tired waitress who has been on her feet all day and night, working a double shift and fighting illness with home remedies because taking a day off to go to the doctor means not getting paid. Some of us will relate more to the patrons at the table who do not know this woman's story, but who do know that she has not been back to see how we are doing and has not cleared the appetizer dishes, and that she will not be getting her 20% from us. Somewhere in this book, we will see ourselves. And wherever that is okay. What I hope will come from the book is that our viewpoint doesn't end there. That wherever we begin as our starting point in the book, we feel called to look up from that spot, to look around, and to begin to see the others around us. I want to share with you a few of the statistics from the book and from our local number crunching, and I hope that the message from our flower communion is the one that brings these numbers to life for you. The message that there is no part of this community that should be invisible, that we each add our unique offering to the arrangement, and that no flower is more important than any other flower. In May, I traveled to the State House in Boston to take part in UU Advocacy Day. I joined 100 other Unitarian Universalists to be educated about topics of concern and to take that knowledge to the State House to talk to my elected officials. One of the things we advocated for that day is an increase in the minimum wage. The current minimum wage in Massachusetts is $8 an hour. For tipped workers, it is $2.63. A living wage is the hourly rate that an individual must earn to support their family. If they are the sole provider and are working full-time, that's 2,080 hours per year. MIT has a living wage calculator on their website, and I used it to see what a living wage might be here in Provincetown. According to their calculator, for a single adult, a living wage would be $10.33. For an adult with one child, it would be $24.78. For an adult with two children, it would be $31.67. The other day, the state Senate approved a bill that would raise the state's $8 per hour minimum wage in 3 increments to $11 an hour by 2017. The measure would also gradually raise the minimum wage for tipped workers, such as restaurant servers, from the current $2.63 to $3.75 an hour. Critics say that this will hurt small businesses, but in a state where 600,000 minimum wage employees live in poverty, despite having full-time jobs, this would mean a huge difference. A few more statistics from the book. Restaurant workers rely on food stamps at double the rate of the workforce of the rest of the economy. More than half of all restaurant workers nationwide earn less than the federal poverty line. 90% of restaurant workers surveyed nationally reported not having paid sick days, and 2/3 reported cooking, preparing, and serving our food while sick. People of color, women, and immigrants largely occupy the lower paid positions in restaurants, and there is an average $4 wage gap between white workers and workers of color. Jayaraman writes, "To most foodies, sustainable food refers to food that is grown without the use of pesticides or other harmful chemical agents, and livestock that is raised humanely and without hormones. When we hear the word sustainable food, we also tend to think of food that is produced locally to reduce the amount of environmental damage caused by transporting food thousands of miles to cities across the country. Most foodies care how we define sustainable food because they're concerned about their health and the environment. However, sustainable food also needs to embody fair and equitable labor practices. Food can't really be healthy, ethically consumed, or sustainable if it's prepared and served in an environment that permits abuse, exploitation, and discrimination. It's definitely not sustainable to eat food served by workers who cannot afford to feed their families and face the added burden of having their wages and tips stolen. Sustainable food, by definition, she says, must include sustainable labor practices. The organization that the author of Behind the Kitchen Door started, the Restaurant Opportunities Center, has grown into a national restaurant workers organization. They focus on improving three things: poverty wages, lack of earned sick leave, and occupational segregation. These problems are big, but they are not hopeless. ROC has won 17 campaigns, winning over $8 million in back wages and policy changes to the restaurant companies, including internal promotions policies, creating career paths and ladders based on merit and seniority. And in these campaigns, they have found that consumer demand for racial equity in restaurants has a significant impact. Our own Racial Justice Project community group recently sent letters to the Provincetown business owners. We wrote, "We want to introduce ourselves to you as business owners because we recognize that you are asked to make decisions every day that affect people of color. You also are stakeholders in working toward racial justice in this town. We applaud you for your decisions such as paying a living wage to your workers, hiring people of color for front-of-house positions as well as back-of-house positions, and supporting your workers in finding safe and affordable housing." We concluded, as year-round residents, we would like to increase our support of businesses who make racial justice a priority. In Behind the Kitchen Door, Jayaraman tells the story of what she called her Matrix moment. If you've seen the movie The Matrix, you'll remember that the main character, Neo, has a transformative moment when he suddenly begins to see a much more complex reality behind the facade of the simpler world he thought of as reality. Jayaraman's Matrix moment was the shift from taking in only her own table and food experience as the reality of eating out, to taking in the whole scene of the restaurant, including what was happening just out of sight. After that, she says, every time I ate out, I would look in the kitchen. For the first time, I saw every kitchen worker, every restaurant worker, as a human being with a unique story, family, dreams, and desires. I would see these workers every time I ate out. Suddenly, I could see a whole world I have never seen over a lifetime of eating in restaurants. A common mealtime grace asks us to give thanks for the food we are to receive, and to thank and bless the hands of those whose labor made the meal possible. To close, let us take a few moments in silence to give thanks for all whose labor makes possible not only the nourishment of our bodies, but the nourishment of our spirits as we reflect on the joy of eating together. With our eyes open to all those around us, we offer our thanksgiving for all who prepare, serve, and clean, that we might enjoy the food that sustains us. Amen.